Hi all, we're going to look now at round 13 of the Linares 1992, where Kasparov completely crushed Ljubojevic with the black pieces in a seemingly effortless manner. Ljubojevic played c4, avoiding mainline opening theory, just trying to be content with a small edge out of the opening. Unfortunately, this Kasparov continuation with e5 is very good for black statistically. I've checked with the Let's Play Chess.com master collection, and black is faring very well with this. So one of the ideas is to delay the deployment of this knight, not to play knight f6, but to use this f pawn first, as we'll see. Bishop g2, d6, now d3, and now comes f5, and black is already possibly equal already. It's very annoying for white. Black's going to play knight f6 with a comfortable position and attacking opportunities. White played e4, and after knight f6, knight ge2, Kasparov simply castled. And after h3, Kasparov played c6. So what is the idea of c6? Well, black wants to play bishop e6 without white playing e takes f5 and bishop takes b7. So it prepares bishop e6, and also maybe it's threatening white that black's going to play d5 later. In this game, black did play d5 and equalised even more, maybe even got the advantage after that. So he plays bishop e6, and after queen d2, Kasparov now simply took on e4, and I think Ljubojevic is already starting to be worse here in this game continuation, because after knight takes e4 he can't take with the d pawn now after this knight takes e4 because of the c4 pawn, and after bishop takes e4 d5, I think black is looking better, slightly better already. So actually, you know, looking at this game, I wonder if after bishop e6, I know it looks a little bit bad, but maybe b3 was a better idea here. You know, because if f takes and takes here, this seems to be okay for white. It seems in this game continuation, Ljubojevic just ended up worse. He's got this miserable pawn on d3, and we'll see this rook on a8 later in the game, coming down, you know, destroying white on this horizontal attack later. Believe it or not, after knight c6 castles, queen d7, white's already under a lot of pressure, so not only a threat of maybe d4 at any time, but also the h3 pawn's also already attacked, so defending that passively. So d4 gaining a bit of space, and also prepares bishop d5, which weakens white's light squares around the king. White's just very, very passive out of this opening. He must have been disgusted with his position. He played bishop e4, but Kasparov doesn't have to take on e4. He can leave white's miserable pawn on d3 here. And instead he just threatens to increase the pressure on f2. So white king passively goes to g2 to protect that f pawn. And now queen e6. Intriguing, but I think the idea is to try and virtually pin this a1 rook, so that a2 pawn is going to be en prise in some variations. So white has to watch out for bishop takes e4s and queen takes a2s, believe it or not, if the rook moves. So white's been under pressure here on both sides of the board, not just his f pawn but his a pawn. Very comfortable for black. Black's already got a significant advantage according to Ribka, more than half a pawn here. So white played bishop takes d5, and after queen takes d5, check, f3. Now Kasparov, he's got great position here with his semi-open f-file, but he pursues a queenside attack now. So I mentioned earlier this a8 rook. It becomes very, very aggressive. a5, so it's got this immediate idea of a4 and a3, undermining the c3 square, which we'll see as a great outpost square for black. So h4, white maybe is threatening h5, but it's not a very dangerous looking attack at all. So Kasparov just simply played a4, continuing his undermining idea of this c3 square. So knight g1, a3. White's extremely passive on both sides of the board. Very miserable position. After rook fb1, Kasparov simply played now bishop f8. So that bishop is useful on this diagonal. It supports the b4 square, so if this b pawn's ever in trouble, it can just go to b4, as occurred in the game. So b takes a3, and white's got miserable pawns now, isolated pawns on a2 and d3. Now this rook can be very aggressive now on this rank, as we'll see. Rook b2, now b5, so Kasparov's taking care of his b pawn, just using it to come to b4, supported by that bishop on f8 and that knight on c6. And it will then support that excellent outpost, the c3 square, in white's position. So white really is in a miserable position now after this rook c3. So here is stage 2 of Kasparov's positionally crushing plan. He plays knight a5. So he's building on his advantage, because now there's the manoeuvre knight b7 to c5, attacking that d3 pawn. So white's position will go from bad to worse to even worse. Queen d1 and now knight b7. Just carrying on this manoeuvre. White really hasn't got any active counterplay. His knight's tied down really to that f pawn. Bishop d2 was played, seemingly trying to win material, because after rook takes d3, Kasparov was faced with queen e2. So is he going to lose the exchange or sack the exchange with rook c3? He could possibly play rook c3. Rybka really likes rook c3 here, because he'd get these enormous passed pawns. Let's have a quick look. Rook c3, could white really take here? I doubt it. B takes c3. This rook's protecting the knight, so say rook b3, then just knight c5, and black, that would be much better here. Kasparov actually, though, after queen e2, he plays rook d takes f3, which is also a very promising continuation for black, because he's now got d3 on the cards, forking queen and rook to gain his material back, and just be a pawn up in this position, 3-4 against 3, so he's a pawn up. Rybka thinks 2.28 advantage at least. So now knight c5, and now there's a menacing threat of both e4 and also knight d3s. White decided here, after bishop takes b4, knight d3, he's faced, well, he has to move his bishop, but if bishop takes f8, then rook takes f3, followed by, like, if queen takes, then knight e1 check. So this bishop must keep eye on the e1 square here. So he plays bishop d2, keeping an eye on the e1 square. But now bishop c5, and it's very, very annoying, because black's still got this e4 on the cards with e3 crashing through, just winning loads of material. So white desperately gives up the exchange now. And after bishop c3, Kasparov, you know, he doesn't want to give back the e pawn. He's the exchange. He protects the e pawn, and now white thinks he might have some hope, some glimmer of hope with this a pawn. Kasparov sniffs it out. First he attacks the bishop. The bishop moves back, and now knight b2. So knight b2, attacking the a pawn. Here, bishop c3 was played, and after knight c4, so not taking the a pawn to exchange with the e pawn, but instead Kasparov goes back with the rook to f7, so strengthening the pressure on that f3, and after a5, e4 is just crushing. Knight e1, e3 check, king g1, and after knight d2, white's had enough. White resigned. So why did white resign here? Well, there's the horrible threat of rook f1 check. So let's say knight g2 was played, rook f1 check, and if king h2, rook f2, forking queen and knight, that would be completely hopeless for white. So it was quite a positionally crushing game. White just had a disadvantage after the opening and was mercilessly crushed after positionally and tactically. Let's have a quick overview and summary now. So it was an English opening, but black delaying the f pawn. So he had a very, very comfortable position here. Now a very nice plan of c6 to support bishop e6. And here white played queen d2, which I think is a slight mistake. I would have preferred b3. I can't see what's wrong with b3 here, because the way this continuation was played, it looks utterly miserable for white, with this space advantage for black in the centre, this miserable pawn on d3. After knight c6, by the way, white couldn't have played d4, I think, because this forcing continuation as queen a5 check, and if b4, queen a6, and black's slightly better here because white can't easily castle. So anyway, so after this castle's queen d7, so black just had a great position, just lots of pressure both on the king side and on the queen side, even the a2 pawn. So now we see this first positional plan of undermining the c3 square, and then this was followed by getting that outpost, using it, putting a rook there, and now this lovely knight maneuver to harass this d3 pawn. But actually Kasparov was prompted to sack with temporarily to just go a pawn up here, and this was just crushing after the exchange up, fairly hopeless for white, and Kasparov just crashed through now